Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the synthesis of yoga with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 121, at the bottom of the page, beginning with on another line of approach. But prior to this, Ranga has brought us a poem of Narad, translated by Sri Aurobindo.
Nishikanto, not Narad.
Sorry, Nishikanto, a poem by Nishikanto, translated by Sri Aurobindo. It's entitled King and Devotee. The King of Kings has made you a king. Your scepter gave, your throne of gold, man and fair maid for retinue, your swords of sheen, your warriors bold, your crown, your flag, your victor pomps, high elephants and steeds of pride, the wise to counsel, the strong to serve, and queens of beauty at your side. To me, he gave his alms of grace, his little wallet full of songs, his azure heavens for my robe, his earth, my nest, to me belongs. My sleeping room is his wide world, planet and star for bulb and lamp. The King of Kings who beggared me walks by my side, a comrade tramp. So beautiful. Thank you, Ron. We are in the Yoga of Divine Works.
Yes.
The sacrifice and the Lord of the sacrifice.
So, as usual, we will see what he has said in the previous para. Okay? No. These are my words, so don't look for them. It's a summary of what he has said in the previous para. From this initial recognition that the darkness of the physical world actually conceals the divine presence, deep within its dark and dense folds, the sadhak of the integral yoga now journeys on a voyage of growing discovery of the divine presence everywhere in the cosmos. Maya, the magical energy of the divine, earlier seen as the most convincing illusion creator, is now seen as the very own power of the divine Prakriti, Mahamaya, the Divine Mother. You can also call her the Jagan Mata in our Indian languages. The pure knowledge will of the Satchidananda or conscious force, Chit Shakti, in its downward manifestation into its own created darkness, extends itself, divides itself into infinite forms. This inevitability and consequentially turns into dualities. It is only to these dualities that one subjects oneself in the lower hemisphere of the body, life and mind. The timeless loses itself into time sequences. The spaceless becomes space in which gross forms abide. The initial separation of silence and dynamism was liberative. The soul, escaping from the prison of body, life and mind, enjoys the freedom of the infinite. But now, to the subsequent coexistence of status and dynamis, of the formless and the form, is now added dynamic power, which is quite different from the static powerlessness of the Brahmic consciousness. What does this mean exactly? It means that essentially the sadhak feels his spirit and soul to be part of the Supreme Eternal. In his instrumental being of body, life, and mind, which he is not rejecting now, he feels himself to be an instrument in the hands of Chit Shakti. However much he may feel himself limited in the lower levels, there is a continuous growth and ascent into the higher levels, and there seems to be no limit to this upward ascent towards consciousness, power, ananda. He feels the Supreme is revealing itself gradually to him in a growing sequence. The earlier duality of Brahman Maya is now seen as the master of existence, the Lord of the world, the Lord of the world sacrifice, and also of his own sacrifice. This is what he has said in the previous para, that the initial experience is that of silence and illusion. That slowly changes to silence and not illusion anymore, but the divine presence here, mechanical movement. So, now in the next para we are going to read the Purusha Prakriti consciousness and how that becomes absolutely at the end, totally the divine is one from the bottom, from the top to the bottom.
Now, what Archaka tells us, Archaka, he tells us that it's all going to take place within the human body, not out someplace out there, but it has to happen in the human form. So the form can evolve into a divine form and eventually into supramental. What do you feel about that?
Certainly in the beginning it's not like that, because your soul is going out of your body. The body is the densest part of the, so it remains imperfect for a long time.
Yes, he says that, yes.
It remains imperfect for a long time. And only when, and even when you go to level 2 of the dynamic aspect, the Brahman consciousness, you have no power to change your body, mind, life. So you are outside your body, mind, life. He is right if he is talking of the third level.
I believe he's talking of the
So
third
if
level,
you go to the supramental level,
yes,
the changes have to occur in the body. The body, the mind will start becoming purer even in level 2, in the spiritual levels of consciousness. At the height of the spiritual levels of consciousness over mind, even your vital will become pure. Even the body changes will be there, but not transformation. Changes will be there. Srendo is saying that the color of his skin we could all see, but he is saying that the saliva became thicker and was tasting different, that the hair, he need not have used hair oil at all. There was an automatic lubrication sort of, and the hair he needed.
Yeah.
So all this, the finger, the toes were changing their shape. So these changes are occurring even in the spiritual planes of consciousness.
But for 23 years after that, after he left, Mother was working specifically on the body.
At what level was she?
Yeah.
She's there right at the top.
At the top.
And that's precisely what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That work starts when you are at the overmind and higher mind. Sorry, the supramental level. She was there in the supramental consciousness much of the time. And she used to come down again into her body, mind, life, and then the pains used to start again.
Yes, we heard them.
That's when she used to howl. And we used to hear all that in the playground, in the ashram.
Yes.
So what Archaka is probably saying is the ultimate. At the highest level, that has to happen. But before that, there is much, much journeying to be done.
Yes.
There is a purification, there is a psychicization, then there is a spiritualization. And what he is talking about in the body is only at the highest level, not before that.
So we'll start the paragraph?
Yeah.
Good.
On another line of approach, another duality presents itself to the experience of the seeker. On one side, he becomes aware of a witness recipient observing, experiencing consciousness which does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside us seem to be undertaken and continue. On the other side, he is aware of the same at the same time of an executive force or an energy of process which is seen to constitute, drive, and guide all conceivable activities and to create a myriad forms visible to us and invisible, and use them as stable supports for its incessant flux of action and creation. Entering exclusively into the witness consciousness, he becomes silent, untouched, immobile. He sees that he has till now passively reflected and appropriated to himself the movements of nature, and it is by this reflection that they acquired from the witness soul within him what seemed a spiritual value and significance. But now he has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. He is conscious only of his silent self and aloof from all that is in motion around it. All activities are outside him, and at once they cease to be intimately real. They appear now mechanical, detachable, endable. Entering exclusively into the kinetic movement, he has an opposite self awareness. He seems to his own perception a mass of activities, a formation and result of forces. If there is an active consciousness, even some kind of kinetic being in the midst of it all, yet there is no longer a free soul in it anywhere. These two different and opposite states of being alternate in him, or else stand simultaneously over against each other. One, silent in the inner being, observes but is unmoved and does not participate. The other, active in some outer or surface self, pursues its habitual movements. He has entered into an intense separative perception of the great duality soul nature, Purusha Prakriti. So, he is now saying on another line of approach. So, in the beginning, when you have the Brahmic consciousness, you see the physical world as unreal. Okay? Now it is not unreal anymore. In that Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara, Maya, Prakriti, Shakti chapter, we saw the three levels. That is repeating in another way. So I'll just summarize that and then we'll read this. Level 1 is our ignorance. We are at this level, no spiritual experience, nothing. We are busy with our physical life, with our desires and our thoughts, limited thoughts. Level 2, you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness. Then you realize that you are not the doer of action. You become absolutely silent witness. And the physical world is unreal. Then in the spiritual planes of consciousness only, when you slightly go higher up, from the higher mind to the illumined mind maybe, or the intuitive mind, then you see you have the Purusha Prakriti experience. You see that you are pure consciousness, but the physical world is not illusion anymore. It is dynamic power. It is mechanical unconscious energy. The wind is blowing, the river is flowing, the sun is shining, all mechanical energy, movements of energy. But they are separate. Soul and nature. Nature is mechanical energy. This is what he has said in the Life Divine also there. He is repeating the same thing here. Okay. The third level, all these contradictions become one. That he is not mentioning here, But this is the second experience of Purusha Prakriti. And sometimes you are only in the Purusha experience, sometimes you are in the Prakriti experience, and the two seem to be quite different. His description is there, we'll read the description. And sometimes you are in both, he says, one leg here and one leg here. But they are separate, they are not together. At the third level, where he is not speaking about supermind, they are neither illusion nor mechanical energy, but they are one. It is the Supreme Lord, if you want God, and His power. That which seemed illusion, Maya, that which seemed to be mechanical energy, now turns out to be absolutely the power of the divine to create forms in the world.
So you mentioned the wind moving, the sun shining. What about the evil that he sees also, that Mother speaks?
That is also all movement. That also will probably be seen as all movements only.
Just seen as movement.
Yeah. It's a movement of this way, that way. The good and the bad are both movements with different vibrations. Probably that's what you would see. And you're not affected. There's no evil, you're just watching. There's no good or evil. No judgment. That's why you're at peace, silent, peace, calm, untouched. He used the word
Yes,
untouched.
untouched, yeah.
So, we go through each sentence.
Yes.
On another line of approach, another duality presents itself. So, which is the other? The first duality was pure consciousness and illusion. That was the first duality. Now, the second duality, pure consciousness, pure energy, mechanical unconscious energy. That's the description in this para. Okay? So, on another line of approach, another duality presents itself to the experience of the seeker. On one side, he becomes aware of a witness recipient, observing, experiencing consciousness, which does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside us seem to be undertaken and continue. I'll draw your attention to one word, okay? On one side, he becomes aware of a witness, recipient, observing, experiencing consciousness.
Yes.
He is only receiving, he is not reacting. He is only receiving, he is a recipient, but he is not reacting. In the physical world, if you remember, we are receiving impacts from the world and we are reacting.
But the witness soul does not react.
No reaction at all. That's why he is at peace. Total peace. No reaction. So the word recipient, see, he is only receiving, he is not reacting. You remember, we have even got the names for it. The Karmendriya and the Jnanendriya. The inferent impacts and the efferent actions of the physical world. Senses of knowledge and senses of action. Senses of knowledge, ears, eyes, nose, tongue, skin. Senses of action, hands, legs, the two organs at the lower end of the body, and your speech. So, in this consciousness, no reaction. Absolute calm, quiet. Witness, recipient, observing, only observing, not judging. Okay? Observing, experiencing consciousness, which does not appear to act. So, this first thing that you seem to be powerless and you're only watching is only an appearance. The power is there but held back. You're not using it. Okay? So, does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside. Inside, your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical actions, your will, all these are the inside. And outside, the universe. As I said, the wind, the sun, all these things are the outside. Seem to be undertaken and continue. Okay? They seem to be, the world is there for him to observe and experience. That's what he's saying. Experiencing but without reacting. Okay, so On the other side, that means in the physical world, he is aware at the same time of an executive force or an energy of process which is seen to constitute, drive, and guide all conceivable activities and to create myriad forms visible to us and invisible. Visible in the physical world and invisible the movements of desires, the movements of emotions, the thoughts, these are all invisible forms. But they are forms. Okay, so visible and invisible, and use them as stable supports for an incessant flux of action and creation. Note the word incessant flux. There is a constant movement, and this movement is non-stop. There is nothing in the physical world that is stable. Everything is moving.
But what he is seeing is an executive force or an energy of process.
Yes. It's only an energy and a force of process. The making of things, everything. Okay? Process. The tree is growing, it's a process. The river is flowing from the glacier, it's a process. It's going, evaporating, going up, process. Everything is a process. You are growing up, it's a process. Okay, so energy of process. Because the energy can also be static. But here it is not. It's in movement all the time. Okay, so which is seen to, and he has put process with a P cap.
Yes.
There is an intention, there is a movement. Okay, so which is seen to constitute, drive, and guide all conceivable activities and to create a myriad forms visible to us. The myriad forms, flora, fauna, okay, animate, inanimate, all forms is being constantly done. There is so much of beauty in flora and fauna. But is there not beauty also in the material world? Diamonds and pearls, okay, gold. So there's so much of beauty everywhere. The crystal formations, the semi-precious stones, so beautiful they are. So, to create a myriad forms visible to us and invisible, and use them as stable supports for its incessant flux of action and creation. Entering exclusively into the witness consciousness, exclusive, not here, he becomes silent, untouched, connected with the word recipient, untouched. He is only receiving, but not reacting. No effect on him. Immobile. This is the description of the witness consciousness. You can call it nirvana, you can call it the Brahmic consciousness, you can call it the Atman, you can call it the self. All the same. Its main feature, immobility, featurelessness, infinity, eternity, and absolute calm peace, immutability. That's the character of the witness consciousness. He sees that he has till now passively reflected and appropriated to himself the movements of nature, and it is by this reflection that they acquired from the witness soul within him what seemed spiritual value and significance. He is saying, when you identify yourself with the body, mind, life, you are actually reflecting the appropriating to himself the movements of nature. What nature is doing, you thought that you were doing. That's because you have an ego. The nature is making you grow. The nature is putting emotions into your heart. The nature is putting thoughts into your mind. But you think that I am thinking, I am emoting, and I am acting, which is an illusion. That's what he's saying. Okay, so.
But when he says what seemed a spiritual value.
Yes, because we do feel that our thoughts have values. Okay, our emotions also have values. Love, sympathy. Much of it is illusion. Because the real stuff is outside, not here, not in the vital. Okay, so appropriate to himself. Okay, so within him what seems to be spiritual value and significant. But now He has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. He has stopped identifying himself with his body, mind, life, and he realizes that nature is doing everything. He is not the doer. The experience of the non-doer is the same as that of the nirvana, the witness consciousness. You are not acting at all. You are you means the soul, non-doer. The body, mind, life is subject, is a slave to nature which is making you move, emote and have thoughts. Okay, so
Ascription?
yeah. To ascribe something is to give a characteristic to. Okay. So, if I think of you as a very good man, okay, I am ascribing goodness to you.
Okay.
In that sense. So he is ascribing the doership to the body, mind, life. Now he is not ascribing that. Now he is not identifying himself with the body, mind, life. Okay, so he has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. He is conscious only of his silent self and aloof from all that is in motion around it. Okay, so all the motion around it is the cosmos. He is in the cosmos and there is movement inside the body and outside, but he is untouched. Okay, so that's what he's saying. And all activities are outside him and at once they cease to be intimately real. So they are not really real. Okay, that's the so intimately real. They are not. But note the word motion around. All activities are outside him. Why? There are no activities inside him. He is absolutely immobile. Peace. So only outside the movement is there. And at once they cease to be intimately real. They appear now mechanical, detachable, endable. Your body, mind, life is something quite different. It can end. It makes no difference to your soul. And it's also endable and detachable. I am not at all now identified with my body, mind, life. The body is detachable. I have detached myself from the body. Many children here also have gone out of their body. Okay, I know of at least 2 cases where they will go out of their body and they see the body lying on the bed and they say, "Oh, I'm here and the body is there." Amal had the same experience, you know that, no? Amal, he had the same experience. He went out of his body and he's a very intellectual sort of man, thinking type. So he went and he says, "Okay, let me see. With my subtle body, if I push the legs against the wall, will I be projected onto the other wall?" He went on thinking of all these things and the descriptions are there in his writings. So, the endable, detachable. The body can be detached. The vital can be detached. Okay, so he has used 3 words: mechanical, detachable, endable. In the synthesis of yoga, we are reading synthesis elsewhere, he says that the body seems to be like an instrument in your hand. The soul can use the body as an instrument, he's saying. It is so different, so detachable. Okay? So, entering exclusively into the kinetic movement. Now he is saying, I am not now anymore in the witness consciousness. I am now back in my old nature. Okay? That's the Ashwati's in Savitri we read. He had the experience of light and supreme.
Right.
Then the body, mind, life wants to go back to its old nature. He comes back to his old nature.
Yeah, cannot hold for long.
Yes,
Up
that's
there,
right.
Yes.
And you were saying that it is everybody's experience. It is not everybody's experience because he was there and now he is here. So we are permanently here, not there. So that's the thing. So now, entering exclusively into the kinetic movement, the physical world, identified with the body, mind, life, he has an opposite self-awareness. He seems to his own perception a mass of activities, formation and result of forces. Okay? He sees himself as a mass of only activities, emotions and thoughts. He sees himself in this way. Of forces. If there is an active consciousness, even some kind of kinetic being in the midst of it all, yet there is no longer a free soul in it anywhere. He is not there at all. He is completely identified with the movement, the mechanical energy. Okay? So either this or that.
So what it seems to be is that one can stay there and one can also go down and back up again.
Yes, that's what happens. The experience goes on repeating itself until finally you are stabilized in that new consciousness. But it takes a long time. It's not, even in the physical world, no? For perfection you have to go on practicing. A sitar player has to go on practicing. Then he reaches perfection. So, practice is always the key to perfection. So they are also same thing. So, so entering exclusively into the kinetic movement, he has an opposite self-awareness. He seems to his own perception a mass of activities, formation and result of forces. If there is an active consciousness, even some kind of kinetic being in the midst of it all, yet there is no longer a free soul in it anywhere. No soul. These two different and opposite states of being alternate in him. There you are. Sometimes you are here, sometimes you are here, sometimes you are here, sometimes you are here. Until it gets stabilized at the higher level. Okay? In yoga, sometimes it can get stabilized in the lower level. Maybe in the next life you will again pick up. But these are called the Bhrashta yogis, those who have fallen. There are many cases like that here. There was, now he is not there anymore, I can say, that it was Dr. Nayak, who had wonderful experiences, and his is one of the largest correspondences. Now his, I think, 50th or 60th episode is being published in the bulletin. His correspondence is Sri Aurobindo. He had to leave the ashram and go away. He had a fallout with mother, and one day he was in the meditation hall on the staircase. He was there and he was shouting at the mother for some reason or other. He was shouting at the mother.
Was that when Sri Aurobindo said, "Who is that?
Who is shouting at the mother?"
Yes. Yes.
And then afterwards Niruddha asked him, "Sir, you got angry?" He says, "No. It wasn't the vital movement. It was Rudra power. The power of Shiva, divine power, not anger." How can anyone be shouting at mother? He said that. Okay, so that man had to leave. So, alternate, either there or here, sometimes for a long time you have to be here, then again pick up the journey, spiritual journey, maybe in your next life.
But eventually he was fixed in the lower.
No, you can't ever be fixed in the lower.
Ah.
All human beings and everybody is only traveling up at different pace and different conditions and different characteristic. The speed will all be different. But nobody is going downwards. Today even I read again that nobody really goes downwards. Even if you go down, it's only temporary. Until you feel the need again to rise. Okay, so these two different and opposite states of his being alternate in him or else stand simultaneously over against each other. Now that's interesting. Mm-hmm. You have one leg here and one leg here. So both are there. Okay, but they are different. They are separate. One silent in the inner being observes but is unmoved and does not participate. The other, active in some outer or surface self, pursues its habitual movements. He has entered into an intense separative perception of the great duality, soul nature, Purusha Prakriti. This is the experience in the spiritual planes of consciousness. And the third level, Purusha and Prakriti are not separate but they become one. So, three levels. Level 1 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, silence and illusion. You are in a silent consciousness and the world is illusion. The second one, you are in the silence, but the world is not illusion anymore, mechanical, unconscious energy. Okay? That's the second one. The third level, both become one. So that's what he is describing here, the Purusha Prakriti consciousness. That's the Sankhya philosophy. So the Sankhya philosophy does not go to the third level. It stops at the second level. But as the consciousness deepens, he becomes aware that this is only a first frontal appearance, for he finds that it is by the silent support, permission, or sanction of this witness soul in him that this executive nature can work intimately or persistently upon his being. If the soul withdraws its sanction, the movements of nature in their action upon and within him become a wholly mechanical repetition, vehement at first, as if seeking still to enforce their hold, but afterwards less and less dynamic and real. More actively, using this power of sanction or refusal, he perceives that he can, slowly and uncertainly at first, more decisively afterwards, change the movements of nature. Eventually, in this witness soul or behind it, it is revealed to him the presence of a knower and a master will in nature, and all her activities more and more appear as an expression of of what is known and either actively willed or passively permitted by this Lord of her existence. Prakriti herself now seems to be mechanical only in the carefully regulated appearance of her workings, but in fact a conscious force with a soul within her, a self-aware significance in her turns, a revelation of a secret will and knowledge in her steps and figures. This duality, in aspects separate, is inseparable. Wherever there is Prakriti, there is Purusha. Wherever there is Purusha, there is Prakriti. Even in his inactivity, he holds in himself all her force and energies ready for projection. Even in the drive of her action, she carries with her all his observing and mandatory consciousness as a whole support and sense of her creative purpose. Once more, the seeker discovers in his experience the two poles of existence of one being and the two lines or currents of their energy, negative and positive, in relation to each other, which effect by their simultaneity the manifestation of all that is within it. Here too, he finds that the separative aspect is liberative, for it releases him from the bondage of identification with the inadequate workings of nature in the ignorance. The unitive aspect is dynamic and effective, for it enables him to arrive at mastery and perfection. While rejecting what is less divine or seemingly undivine in her, he can rebuild her forms and movements in himself according to a nobler pattern and the law and rhythm of a greater existence. At a certain spiritual and supramental level, the duality becomes still more perfectly two in one. The master soul with the conscious force within it and its potentiality disowns all barriers and breaks through every limit. Thus, This once separate, now biune duality of Purusha Prakriti is revealed to him in all its truth as the second great instrumental and effective aspect of the soul of all souls, the master of existence, the Lord of the sacrifice. This is a very interesting paragraph, and what he's saying is, so this is there described in the Gita very clearly. Okay, so first experience in the spiritual plane, consciousness, reality, and illusion. Second level in the spiritual planes of consciousness, soul and nature. Not illusion anymore, but mechanical unconscious energy. Now he goes to another step higher, and when he found that he is only observing and not reacting, he now finds that he can react. So he becomes the permission giver to his body mind life. He is watching his nature, and now he finds that, oh, I have the power to say no to something that I was doing earlier. I was having a desire for, let's make it simple, let's say I had a desire for good food. Now I can say that I don't want that desire. I discover that I am the permission giver. I am the sanction giver. I am not pure witness anymore. So that is slightly higher in the spiritual planes of consciousness.
Is it from the overmind?
No, not necessarily. At the overmind,
So it can be
certainly it is
below
there.
that.
Yeah, even below that you can start having. As I said, these planes
Yeah.
merge one into the other, so you can't be very geographical in that way. Okay, so he sees that he is the sanction giver. So then, why not I stop my wrong thoughts? Why not I stop these thoughts? So now what happens? And now we come to yoga. Okay, he says that you say no, I don't want these. So you discover that you have a power. And when you say no to something, what happens is like this. He says that the past energy, the past permission that you had given to yourself to indulge in good food, okay, now slowly, because the permission is not there anymore. The new energy is not being given. The switch has been switched off. So what energy was there already in continues, and slowly it comes to a stop. It's like switching off a fan. The fan is not being supplied new energy anymore. I don't want greed. So the fan will continue until the already imparted energy in it comes to a stop after some time. This is very interesting what he has said. Okay, so this is like I gave you the example of the fan. This is exactly what happens. So the old habits continue, but they are not affecting you anymore. They are only mechanical habits without significance, without disturbing you. When you are identified with your body mind life, when you see desires in yourself, you feel, oh my God, why these habits are there? You have no power to reduce them at this level. But first is separation. Then power to do something on it. Anumanta, you are the sanction giver. Then you realize that, oh, now you know much more. You are a knowledge. You become the knower. You become the jnata. Then you become the supporter, which beginning you thought that your body was endable, detachable. Now you find that you have a power to change. There is a connection with it. So you are the supporter of the body-mind life. Bharta. Then you become the enjoyer of all actions. Bhokta. Finally you become master. So this is what he is describing here.
But only when you're in that.
In the spiritual planes
in
of
the
consciousness.
spiritual planes, yes.
Probably with a little bit of supramental infiltrations also, probably. But this is what he is describing here. So in this paragraph, in summary, what he is saying, with the deepening consciousness of this disharmony of Purusha Prakriti, okay. By the way, he is talking of deepening, But he also means deepening means by going higher and higher, it deepens, the consciousness deepens. So, with the deepening consciousness, this disharmony, sharp dichotomy, seemingly unbridgeable gulf, the sadhaka realizes that this first perception of division is only a partial, relatively superficial phenomena. The sadhak discovers that there is a connection between the free witness and the lower manifested being of body mind life. Okay? In other words, he sees a clear but subtle connection, a link between Purusha and Prakriti. This allows a growing control of Purusha over Prakriti or control of soul and self over the rigidity of habits in the body, life, and mind. Then the Gita sequence of Sakshi, witness, Anumanta, permission giver, sanction giver, the Jnata, the knower, the Bharta, the supporter, the Bhokta, the enjoyer, the Ishvara, the master, comes into play, unfolds, and reveals itself. Purusha at first only watches impassively, then permits the action of Prakriti, whatever be its quality. Then he supports the activity of Prakriti, nature. Later, he withdraws the given permission to limited, fixed, perverse habits. Then finally, controlling his own nature, he becomes master, lord of entire nature, which seemed unconscious, mechanical action. The sadhaka sees Purusha standing over her and being in her guides her infallibly. There is a hidden guidance and governance of consciousness in nature, in plants seeking water and light, birds building nests, instinctively migrating in winter. This is the Purusha in Prakriti, instinct. Okay? The seeker now discovers the eternal companionship of Purusha and Prakriti, the two fundamental principles of existence, Chit and Shakti. They are never separate as seemed at first, but always cling to each other. Purusha alone holds as in a womb all of Prakriti's myriad activities. Prakriti, even in her seeming ignorant, unconscious mechanical activity, holds in herself the permission and approval of consciousness and knowledge. Now, the previous duality of Chit and Shakti, knowledge and will, become two extreme poles of the same, self-same reality, involved in each other and playing hide and seek with each other. When separation is experienced, it ensures freedom from bondage to lower body-mind life. Separation. He is giving you the explanation of why you need to have that experience of separation. It gives you freedom. When unity is experienced, it ensures power and mastery over the lower manifestation of cosmos and nature. At the very height of level 2, spiritual planes of higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive and overmind, the seeker reaches the supramental, where the two fundamental principles of Chit and Shakti, Purusha and Prakriti, knowledge and will, become one single entity.
So Purusha is not always totally static.
Exactly. There's a gradation.
There's a gradation.
So this idea of gradation is very important.
Ah.
You are in ignorance first, so you are told that the ignorant way of looking is not real. So illusion. You are mistaken. But that is only to make you feel separate from body-mind life. Then as you keep going higher and higher, ultimately it's only one reality. That which seem two are really one.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste.